What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the midweek college basketball betting preview. I'm Stuckey, and joining me today is my fellow BBOC co-host, Tanner McGrath. Mike Calabrese dealing with some weather and flu. I think a lot of us out there are dealing with some weather issues. I just got back from Aruba this morning. By the way, if you ever go down there, I finally got to eat at this place called Oak. Incredible. You got to get the reservations a couple weeks out. Worth getting. But I just went from perfect weather to more snow and flooding in Kentucky. It's a disaster.
And you lost power today too, right?
Yesterday. But I'm ready for the stretch run. Luckily, I don't care about the weather until April now. I'll be locked in the dungeon trying to find winners. You're dealing with some weather too.
Yep. Wife and I went skiing over the weekend, and when we came back, there were 6 inches of snow, and then an ice storm. Freezing rain came over the top, so it froze everything over, and my pipes are frozen, and I have no water. So it's great. Everything's great.
Well, let's get to the week that was in college basketball highlights, some good and some bad. And then we'll actually get in. We're going to talk a little tournament. And the committee this weekend released its top 16 seeds. So we're just going to high-level look at what that would look like and what our quick thoughts are and how that would all play out. But let's start with some good. I'm going to highlight a couple of coaching changes in college basketball. One, what might have gone way under the radar, and it's your Dartmouth boys. They hired, so Dave McLaughlin's their coach. He hired Rich Glessman as an assistant in the offseason, who was overseas, and he coached some like high-flying offenses, up-tempo, and in the offseason, they were one of the many teams that said, look, we're going to go up-tempo, but they're one of the few that actually did. Last year, they were 311th in adjusted tempo. This year, they're 35th. They now sit all alone in second place behind Yale at 6-3 in the Ivy. A great story in Dartmouth. Princeton with another dud. That was a loser I had on the weekend where they just got destroyed by Yale. Had some great CLV that I'll spend here, and then I'm back in the States in that game. But Yale dominated them once again. Just an extraordinary difference in 2-point efficiency. But shout to Dartmouth for modernizing their offense. And then another team that this one has been talked about a lot that's on fire of late is Wisconsin. And in the offseason, well, I should say 2 years ago, they brought on Kirk Penny. And he was, to really revolutionize and modernize their offense, he played for Wisconsin on a team that went to the Final Four under Dick Bennett in, I think, like 1999, 2000. And Dick Bennett, he ran the blocker mover offense, very strict blocker mover offense, and which had some like Bob Knight principles, but and then Penny was there when Bo Ryan was hired. Bo Ryan with his swing offense. Interestingly enough, Penny then went over. He played overseas. He's a Kiwi, I believe, from New Zealand. Tony Bennett, after Virginia lost to UMBC in the tournament, and they won the national title year after, he reached out to Penny, and Penny ended up being like an advisor on the Virginia staff to help, add some juice and modernize their offense, change their offense a bit, which ended up leading to a national title. But things come full circle with Wisconsin because Greg Gard, who took over after Bo Ryan's retirement, was still running, I don't know, what I would say is a pretty outdated offense, and in comes Penny with this, continuity ball screen offense with just, it's not your traditional, hey, Wisconsin, we're going to play through two bigs in the post. There's a lot more spacing, and this offense is electric. And you could see it from the very start of the year. I mean, remember they scored 100 plus on Arizona at home in like early November.
Over half their shots in Big-10 play have been from three. They're all spacing and shooting now. Yeah, it's great. They still play. They can play inside out though, because the two bigs can pass out. But it's just the spacing is a totally different thing. Last year, what did they rank last?
But their
year?
bigs also can shoot.
Yeah,
which is a key to their offense. I mean, Crowell can step out and hit one occasionally. Winter can hit some threes. So they have, shooters all over. They have these big wings that are tough to guard, and it's a whole new offense for Wisconsin. And you're right, like if you go back to, I don't know, let's go back to 2021. I mean, this team played 328th in adjusted tempo, so they play much faster now. It's a much better spacing, and because of that, I think that they're going to continue to be able to get these wings in the portal that they need for this offense, because it's a much more appetizing offense where players want to come and play for. It's not your older brother's Wisconsin team. So
Tanji has been amazing.
Yeah. This Wisconsin offense has a ton of upside, and for my money, from a pure offensive perspective, and the defense is okay. I mean, the defense might end up.
You can move the bigs around and use like DHO stuff to kind of spread them out, shoot over the top. I think the book.
And they don't force any turnovers.
Yeah,
by structure, but
two big drop.
So their defense isn't great, but their ceiling on offense is very high, and I'm starting to come around on Wisconsin having the highest ceiling in the NCAA tournament. Maybe Maryland's right there. I still have questions about Maryland's depth.
My good was going to be Maryland. I think has the highest upside in March.
Yeah, Maryland's right there. I mean, their starting five is excellent. Illinois still has that ceiling, but now they're dealing with a key injury, and I assume that Morez Johnson, he's out for the year. I mean, it's a broken wrist. What is that usually, like 6 to 8 weeks?
Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks, and then
so that's big. I mean, and man, I mean that their offense just the final 8 minutes against Michigan State, they didn't score a single point. But shout out to look at Drake. Drake basically implemented with McCollum, a D2 school, with a lot of their players and coach, and I think that's what some of these teams need to do. And there's a lot of parallels in it because the college basketball game is changing, and there's a lot of parallels with the betting markets. And I've spent the last month and a half redoing everything that I've ever done in college basketball. That's like what I'm doing. My volume is way down. I'm trying to rebuild everything. And college basketball is my best sport for 15 plus years. And the market the game's different. The portal's different. The landscape's different. The market is much more efficient. Like all these spots that used to just be free money, they're just, the tax on them is insane. And so, and I used to not bet college football seriously. Now I do. I spend so much of my offseason doing that. And then NFL, I just haven't had time to really overhaul everything I've done in college basketball. And you just get used to what works, and that doesn't work for everyone. It's the same thing with college basketball. And if you're a coach, like some things that worked in the past, you've had success doing it. It's hard to say to yourself, you know what, I have to change. But especially
shout out Coach John Calipari.
Yeah,
that's a guy.
Especially, but in the betting markets, you got to adapt or die. I was probably too slow to do it. So yeah, the game changes, markets change. So you're seeing some hires and some willingness for coaches to change, not just in those examples, but across college basketball, pay dividends. And you can't just rely on what worked in the past forever. Otherwise, you eventually will die. So, shout out to Wisconsin, who, by the way, I mean, the reason I bring those two teams up is because Dartmouth, and I know I'll let you get some licks in on them because they have been running good from three, and I know that I think they beat you over the weekend. But Dartmouth beat Columbia by 22, and then Cornell by 39 over the weekend. I mean, they held Cornell to 49 points too, which is pretty impressive. But and then Wisconsin with one of the most impressive offensive showings that you'll ever see, and it was at Mackey Arena. I mean, Wisconsin they shot 61.5% from the floor, had just 3 turnovers, averaged almost 1.5 points per possession. It's the first time a D1 team shot over 60% and had 3 or fewer turnovers in a road game in 15 years. And they did it against Purdue and Mackey. They 20 of 22 from inside the 3-point line.
Felt good too.
Highest 2-point percentage.
I've always been a little sketchy about Purdue's defense, and I think that Wisconsin had all the pieces to really exploit that, and they just fully did. I'm kind of out on that Purdue defense. I'm really not non-believer in that team.
Yeah, I'm out on Purdue as well. I mean, Purdue's effective field goal defense their effective field goal percentage over the past month, 309th.
Yeah, they have some decent
2-point defense.
Yeah,
dead last.
They have some decent pressure, but without Edey, the interior defense has fallen off a cliff.
Yep. And which is troubling because they're also giving up one of the highest 3-point rates in the country, and they can't defend the two. The dead last, the 2-point defense, 61.1% over the past month. So, yeah, I mean, you know whose offense has quietly been cooking though I don't think many people are talking about because they had that midseason swoon is UCLA in the Big Ten.
Yeah, but also that's because they came back to the West Coast.
That's true.
That's just that's
been it. They get to play in the West. Will they get to play in the West region though?
That's true. Well,
their offense top 10. They're 8-1, top 10 offense over the past month, and yeah, you're right. I mean that has coincided with them getting back home to the friendly West Coast. But
the road win over Indiana was good. You know, they shot 45% from 3, but still, yeah.
You want to get any licks in on Dartmouth?
Yeah, I'll start there. I mean, look, great coaching hire. I like that they've started going up tempo. The scheme seems to fit the roster more. They're third in February. They're third nationally in adjusted defensive efficiency. Why? Opponents have shot 18% from 3. During that same stretch, they've shot 46%. And Dart, that's just crazy, man. And they don't force turnovers. They're not a great ball handling team. They are okay on the defensive glass, but I still think they're small and can get bullied. I think they're not good from a shot volume perspective. They cooked me over the weekend because Columbia, that was one of my favorite spots of the year, and they just got wrecked. But I mean, their 3-point delta.
Congrats on making it, by the way. I saw you got roasted on Twitter. That's when you made it.
Oh yeah, no, I got some guy set up a Fade Tanner Twitter account, so everyone can go follow that if they want.
Fade Tanner 24/7 or something.
Yeah,
it's with your picture. I've had probably over 100 accounts with variations of my name, picture over the years. So, congrats.
Yeah, seminal moment. But anyways, I don't see that keeping up, and I'm going to be fading Dartmouth in the near future because that's just
Penn.
Is that who they play next?
Penn on Friday.
Penn hasn't been that good though, have they?
I mean,
they've lost 5 straight, but they did play Yale twice. Yeah, I'll probably do it. They get them at home. Going to be a projected home dog. Yeah, I think that's worth it. And they're a good 3-point denial defense too, and that's key against Dartmouth, which just shoots. When they don't hit threes, they're terrible. When they hit threes, they're the best team in the nation. But
I might join you with Penn. Just don't call it the game of the year.
Never again.
All right. What else? What do you got for good?
Yeah. I'll quickly touch on 4 teams, but I'll start with Maryland, who I think actually is the best team, like the best team set up to make a good run in March. I like that their interior creation with Reese and Queen. Jacoby Gillespie is just a ball screen maestro. So they have different ways to create offense, and their defense, their drop coverage defense is much better, much more versatile than Wisconsin is. I think they really only have like one bad loss in the year against Washington, and they've won, I think, 9 of their last 10. I really love this Maryland squad. I like all the pieces that they have. Second one that I want to touch on, Chattanooga. The Mocs are all the way back. They looked dreadful in the non-con, but they've won 9 of 10 in the SoCon. They're riding a 7-game win streak. The Huff, Bonham, Weiland backcourt is elite. They are the mid-major sixth best offense in February, and they are back to rightfully being, I would say, arguably the SoCon's best team. Third team, touch on Vermont, my Catamounts. Despite all the injury issues this year, including a potentially massive one to Shamir Bogues, by the way. I keep an eye on that. I've heard that he's going to be okay, but still. Vermont's won 6 of 8, including 4 straight. They're tied for second in the America East. John Becker, as he's done so many times before, has somehow turned this all around. And they're somehow the league's best offense and defense in February. They've been the nation's best defensive rebounding team over the past month, and they've fixed their turnover issues too. And those were 2 things that really haunted them in the non-con. And TJ Hurley has been a superstar top scoring option. 20 per game, nearly 50% from 3 over his past 6 games. They're officially a threat again, and they get Bryan on Thursday at home. So really going to be watching closely there. Finally, your
threat to do what? They get trucked in the first round, whoever wins that.
Oh, yeah, I know. There's no one really in the Am East that I like coming out of the first round, but still, impressive turnaround for my Cats. Also,
if Bryant wins it, who would you want them to play to cover?
Oh God, I'd have to look. Someone
did they need to play like an up and down? Someone that's going to run with them.
Yeah, and so maybe someone who's a little bit smaller in the backcourt, so they can really take advantage of that. They need to play a rim like a rim reliant offense where they can just swat and swat and swat. Maybe Louisville, maybe, because then they can get bad 3-point variance. Yeah. Also, UC San Diego, your Tritons, our Tritons, officially have overtaken San Jose State as the nation's best against the spread team. 19-5 with a plus 7-point average cover margin, and the 2-bid Big West dream survives. So that's my good from the weekend.
You're going to be mad if there's not 2 Big West teams. I'm just going to be really mad if
when Irvine wins the tournament and they get left out.
UCSD is not in.
Yeah,
because I think UCSD, number one, they're much more fun to watch. I think they have a better shot of pulling off an upset. I mean, since over the past month of the season, let's go January 1st. I mean, UC San Diego is 36th in the country.
Because they're a little more dynamic on offense.
Yeah, they're top 40 on offense, and UC Irvine is 228th in adjusted offensive efficiency since January 1st. Their defense is elite as always, but
their defensive scheme is weird though, and can confuse. I think it can confuse a lot of high major programs. Like you mentioned, UCSD against Memphis in the first round. I think Irvine would legitimately beat Memphis. I don't think Penny would be able to scheme against Irvine's defense.
Yeah, I mean Irvine at UC San Diego's. I don't sleep on their defense either, though. But yeah, Irvine's is. I mean, UC San Diego is. They're also, despite not being a great rebounding team, they're still elite from a shot volume perspective.
Yeah, I mean they're more balanced. Irvine's a bit of a, as you would call it.
I don't trust the Irvine offense.
Yeah, Irvine's a bit of a, as you would call it, like a service academy, right, where they play a weird scheme on defense and mess with teams. But UCSD can just beat you straight up.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the bad. I'm going to stay in the Big-10 because this is a Big-10 centric show. I'm going to say I'm out on the first place team, Michigan, all alone in first place. I lost Ohio. I had Ohio State over the weekend.
Me too. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, what was huge in that game, which will fly a little under the radar, is Aaron Bradshaw only played 10 minutes and fouled out. They needed him in that game. They just needed his size in the interior. But, I mean, Bruce Thornton, he airballed a 2-footer to tie the game. He makes that shot 99% of the time. That's the story with Michigan. I mean, here's their last 7 Big-10 wins: 4 over Northwestern in overtime, 4 over Penn State, 3 over Rutgers, 4 over Oregon, 3 over Indiana, 2 over Purdue, 3 over Ohio State.
1-6 against the spread in that stretch too.
I mean, and then you can go back. They beat Iowa by 2 at home. They beat Wisconsin by 3. I mean, it goes on and on. Outside of that West Coast trip where they blew everybody out, this team has been getting so. Now, granted, I will say Dusty May's a great coach. He draws up great stuff at the end of games, so that matters in close games. But and they are a matchup problem because they play such a unique brand of basketball with the 2 bigs with Golden and Wolf, who's just very difficult to cover. But I'm out on this team, I think. Even though they just keep winning, let's look. I mean, over the past month, if you look at the Big-10, so let's go since January 15th, Michigan, per Torvik, 44th in the country. They're basically Nebraska, but they're just won all the close games. They're 7-2. Illinois is getting all the shit. Is 34th. They're 4-5 over that span. Michigan, their turnovers are a problem. They're almost 300th since January of the past month. They're almost 300th in the country in both offensive and defensive turnover rate. They're not a great rebounding team.
They get crushed in shot volume.
Yeah, their 2-point offense and defense is outside the top 150. I don't trust their backcourt. So, yeah, I'm looking to fade Michigan. I also will mention, you did mention Maryland. I think I like this Maryland team. I think we're probably at the peak of their market value. And over the past month, they shot over 40% from 3, and teams are at 30%. The problem is their next game's against USC, who's right there. They've shot almost 40% from 3 over the past month, and teams have shot 28% against them. So I'm not sure that's the best candidate, especially given USC's lack of interior size against Maryland. So I'm looking to fade Maryland and Michigan coming up. I just don't know when. I mean, Maryland maybe. The problem is Penn State keeps coming up with these spots, and I'm not sure. Is Penn State a corpse? Are they dead? I might look at Penn State on Wednesday, tomorrow, or I guess this will be out Wednesday, against Nebraska.
I thought about that too, yeah.
I mean, they're not going to get killed on the boards for once against Nebraska. Nebraska has that big comeback win against Northwestern. Pretty much locks them into the tournament, I think. They got Michigan on deck. They were out in the West Coast recently. Like, it just seems like a sleepy spot. I might get there with Penn State. But, yeah, so my bad is Princeton. The team that I'm out on, I think, is the ceiling of Michigan. Even though they keep winning, that's not going to last forever.
Agree.
What do you got?
I want to talk about Georgia because I was on the Bulldogs against both Texas A&M and Mizzou over the past week. They led the Aggies 34-23 early in the second half. They allowed a 22-0 run. In the other game against Mizzou, they led the Tigers by 3 at the half and lost 33-13 in the first 10 minutes of the second half. They are now firmly on the bubble, more likely out of the bubble than in. And it's because in 2 huge moments, they just pissed all over themselves. I mean, what happened to Asa Newell in the Texas A&M game? He didn't play that much. I'm trying to remember. Anyways, it was terrible.
There was some foul trouble, but
yeah,
they just their backcourt isn't good enough. And they turn the ball over too much. They're trending in the wrong direction. I mean, they're at Auburn next, then home against Florida, then at Texas.
No, they needed these 2 wins. Yeah, and they had
unless
both.
they steal. They could, if they steal Florida, they could maybe get back on the right side of the bubble. But if they lose the next 3 as they're projected to, I think they're going to end up being out, because then you close at South Carolina, and then home against Vandy. I mean, they're not going to move the needle if you're. I mean, because they've already lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of 10.
Yeah,
throw 3 more on there. Maybe 2 and 11, and they're now 4-9 in the conference. It'll be 4-12. No, like 12 SEC teams would be enough. We don't need Georgia, and I'll throw Oklahoma in there. We don't need Oklahoma.
I don't want Oklahoma. I'm so out on Oklahoma.
Yeah, and that should be Oklahoma. If you beat Florida tonight, I'll be back in on you. But to lose that LSU game at home, what were they up like 5 or 6 with 20 seconds left? They give up like a 4-point play, a 3-point play. They turned it over. That should be their nail in the coffin. We'll see if Arkansas can play their way in. That, I think, should be the 12th team. 12 teams in the SEC is plenty. It's the best league, but we don't need 14. We don't need Georgia and Oklahoma in there taking UCSD's spot if need be.
Agree. You want to move on? Else? No, let's move on.
All right, yeah, let's get to the top 16 reveal. So the committee released their initial top 16 seeds. We'll go through them here. The 1 seeds were Auburn, Alabama, Duke, and Georgia. We'll start in the South. Auburn, A&M, Wisconsin, and Texas Tech. That wouldn't be good for me because I have A&M and Texas Tech futures. I have 4 Final Four futures. I assume they'll all find a way to be in the same region as usual. But does Auburn? Let's just pretend this is the bracket. How do you beat Auburn? So, is it? There's 2 schools of thought to this. Is it, the Wisconsin or Texas Tech in a shootout? Because you need to hit threes against Auburn, right? Like we saw Alabama trying to score at the rim. You're not going to do that. You need to be able to move the ball, and you need to hit threes. And Wisconsin and Texas Tech can certainly do that. Or is it A&M ugly? Is this how you want to beat Auburn? Because they're so talented. Do you want to ugly up the game as much as possible? And then you can get offensive rebounds against Auburn. And then you just ugly it up, hope to win a lower scoring game. Or does it not even matter? But what is the type of game that you think Auburn is most vulnerable in? Is it like 88-83 or 69-65?
No, it's the Texas A&M script because they struggle to rebound the ball and they foul too much. And the problem with trying to spread it out and beating them over the top is they play a lot of like drop elite catch and shoot denial drop defense, especially when Broome is in. You can more beat them over the top if Broome is out because then they switch to hedge and recover and it's a whole different thing. But if you look at
they're still a good 3-point defense, but
yeah,
I just think that's the like their offense is also so good that I think that the only way you're going to have to beat them, unless you're just an elite bruising offensive rebounding team.
Yeah, but
you have to hit your threes. Like you're going to have to get some threes.
They've had a few games where they were vulnerable here, right? And obviously there were some injury issues, but like if you think about it, the Tennessee game won by 2, 53-51. The South Carolina game was, I think that was no Broome, but still like win on the road
66-63.
Like I think that's the game script that can get Auburn in trouble because if you try to go shot for shot, tit for tat with one of the best offenses in the last 20 years of college basketball, I don't think you're going to be able to do it. Because this offense, like when it's cooking and, they really are working through Broome to Kelly, it's tough. It's almost near impossible to stop. I'm all in on Auburn this year. I know you're still a little hesitant, but I really think they're going to win it all.
I mean, no, I think that they're the best team. I'm not hesitant. I just love Texas A&M. Mm-hmm. It's not great that A&M would end up in the same region as Auburn, but I would probably pick Auburn to come out of that region as well. Midwest, you have Alabama, Purdue, Iowa State, and Kansas. I don't think Kansas is going to end up as a top 16 seed.
That's what I was going to say. I was thinking like, all right, overseeded teams here. It's got to be Kansas. 5-7 in quad one. They've lost 4 of their last 7. Just lost to Utah. This came out before the Utah loss, though, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Kansas. It's like that. That's probably like I don't know. Who are we
Maryland.
missing up here? Maryland, Missouri. Are we missing anyone else? Yeah, Maryland or Missouri, I think would make sense here.
Yep.
So I'm out. I mean, Kansas. I'm out on Kansas.
I've been out on Kansas since the preseason. I
Yeah,
don't like how the roster is built, especially on the offensive end of the floor. Not enough spacing.
I'm also out
around.
on. Yep, I out on everything about Kansas.
Yep.
I'm out on Purdue. We talked about this already. I'm out on
Also
their
out on
defense.
Purdue. Yes. Yes.
They're also way too reliant on like 3 guys, and that's hard to do in a tournament setting when you just aren't getting any help, and then the game plans are so uber focused on your star player. So I mean, Braid Smith probably the best point guard in the country,
But that's
and
it.
Coffin Red is amazing, but like they got and Lawyer's going to hit some threes, but that you
I
can't.
feel
They
like
have no help whatsoever.
I feel like they could have. I'm surprised that they got on the 2 line altogether. I feel like you could have put them on the 3. I was surprised that they put them over Houston.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they'll end up falling a little bit more, but
Yeah, I mean, I think
so
Houston
this
has
comes
the
down to
way more
Iowa State.
resume.
This comes down to Iowa State, Alabama for me. Which, if I mean, I'm probably going to side with Iowa State just because I'm biased and I'm futures, but it probably comes down to does Alabama hit their threes?
Yeah.
A lot of people have fallen in love with Alabama lately. Well, guess what? It's because they've hit over the past month, they've hit 38, 39% of their threes. And then I still don't trust their defense. And their defense is better. You got to give Oates credit. That's one of the reasons they went out and got Amourier. But their defense still isn't great. But they played Auburn and went 5 of 26 from 3. And
Still dropped
they lost in their
85.
home court by 9. Iowa State's offense, I think, is much better with Momcilovic back. They have a great backcourt, great coach. Their defense is obviously outstanding. Who would you take to come out of there? Iowa State or Alabama?
Iowa State. I think Iowa State. Like I always talk about with Iowa State, if you have a really good defense, really good ball screen blitz defense, and then a good point guard in Lipsy, you've got a really high floor. And then they've got 2 solid scoring options off the wings. I think Iowa State has the higher floor than Alabama and would trust them more in a tournament setting.
Yeah. Now you do need to hit threes against Iowa State.
Yeah, you got to create efficiently on the secondary actions.
Yeah. So if Alabama just has their day where they go 15 of 30, they're probably going to win. But yeah, I think I would have Iowa State coming out as well. East, Duke, Tennessee, Arizona, and St. John's. I can't buy into this Tennessee offense.
Frauds. And isn't Rick Barnes in the tournament? I think is like 2-9 in the last 11 games against the spread.
Yes. Never been to the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, I don't know. Something I know that they're getting better, and a lot of it's their young pieces starting to get incorporated. I still don't know if I trust their backcourt.
I thought that they were maybe potentially overranked in this one. They're now 9th in the net, but they're also they're 10-8 in quad 1, quad 2, lost 2 of their last 3. They had a brutal non-con. I mean, they lost to Oklahoma, who we both hate. I think you could have put Tech over them on the 3 line. I think that's what I would have done. I think Tech has stronger predictive metrics and 7-3 in quad 1 games. So yeah, I'm a little low on Arizona too.
Yeah, and this is before Arizona lost to Houston and Tech just destroyed Oklahoma State. So these might flip. I think Tech's and eventually going to get a 3 or maybe 2 seed, maybe a 1. I mean, if Texas Tech wins out, I think they get a 1. That includes winning the Big 12 tournament because they also get Houston at home. But so I think this comes down to Duke or St. John's, and which would be an incredible defensive game. Is the difference that, man, I mean, Duke St. John's, that game, that would be like 52-50.
I would definitely. I assume the Johnnies would be dogs, and I would take the points.
Does this just come down to that? Like Johnnies are going to go through scoring droughts and Flag's not going to let Duke go through too many. Man, that game would be that would just be a brawl. Yeah, I think I would look to take the points too.
Yeah, I mean, the question is if Duke hits their triples, because Patino's scheme is going to overload the dribble, and then Duke
Sure.
has all those off-ball shooters that they could get to. But I still don't trust Duke's offense. And this would be by far the best defense they had faced since the non-conference, and probably the best defense they will have faced all year.
Yeah, Malik Brown. Isn't Malik Brown out now for?
Yeah, did he get hurt yesterday?
Yeah, we don't know anything. We don't know anything. He had a dislocated left shoulder last night. So he's going to get an MRI. It could be a couple days, or it could be season ending. Their defense is better with him. Like, just no questions asked.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep an eye on. Yeah, I might have St. John's coming out.
Yeah, I think I would too. Yeah.
So
they would have to create ugly offense in the mid-range, but they can do it.
Auburn, Iowa State, St. John's, and then the West, Florida, Houston, Kentucky, Michigan. I can't trust Michigan. We just went over this. I'm not buying Michigan. I can't trust my Cats' defense. And are they even going to be healthy? So this is the chalkiest one, where I think it would be 1 versus 2. Houston, Florida.
Who's going to rebound better? That's the question. Between Houston and Florida.
Man, I don't know.
Florida just got Micah back, though, which is interesting.
And when's Condon coming back?
I don't know.
Let me see. Yeah, I mean, because he's a crazy rebounder.
I mean, they have plenty, though.
Let's see.
Condon is day to day with an ankle injury.
Yeah, I think I don't think he'll play tonight, but yeah, I mean, he should be fine for the tournament. Yeah, I mean, when they got a lot of depth now, Florida. I'll take Florida over Houston, although it would be an incredible game. So Florida's
been one of the, I feel the least talked about elite teams. Just some of the wins they've had recently over, Auburn, and who else did they pick off? Played close to Tennessee, but dominated Tennessee in the first matchup.
No,
hard not to like the Florida team.
No, they're well coached. They have an amazing guard who can take over games in Walter Clayton. They have tons of size. I mean, they are ridiculous on the offensive glass. They can shoot. Yeah, I mean, this team is really good.
I would also take Florida over Houston.
All right, so we're kind of on the same page. We would go, as of right now, Florida, St. John's, Iowa State, and Auburn.
Yep. And then Auburn wins
Big East, Big 12, 2 SEC. All right, let's get to a couple. That's fun. I can't wait for the bracket. I can't wait for conference tournament brackets, and I can't wait for the NCAA tournament.
The first one starts in 2 weeks. Yeah,
I know.
We're already there.
There's two different kinds of fun. I love going through the different bracket structures and trying to find long shots for the conference tournaments, and then there's nothing like the NCAA tournament. So I just wanted to whet everyone's appetite with a look at the first reveal of the top 16. Let's go quick week looks for Wednesday and Thursday. What's that? Sure. All right, it's time for my favorite ad read, because it's one that I love and use myself, and that's for EdgeBoost. And if you're listening to this show, you probably like betting as much as I do. And when it comes to betting, there are two things I'm always trying to do: make it easier and make it more profitable. That's why I partnered with EdgeBoost, the financial platform that pays you cash back to wager. EdgeBoost is an online bank account that pays you for every deposit, because with the EdgeBoost Visa debit card, you get up to 0.5% cash back on all your sportsbook, daily fantasy site, and casino transactions. That's free money back in your pocket just for doing what you're already doing. It's a no-brainer. This isn't some credit card gimmick, I promise. I opened my own EdgeBoost debit card account. It made it even easier to deposit into all of my sportsbook accounts. There's no catch. There's no hidden fees, no minimum balance requirements, none of that. If you've ever had a casino transaction flagged by your bank because they thought it was suspicious or been given the runaround when trying to fund a sportsbook account online, as I'm sure most of you have, the EdgeBoost debit card is the perfect tool. They're partners with all of them. Will just be a seamless transaction. It starts with a $250,000 daily limit and will never be declined for gambling activity. It's why I was happy to open an account. So make your betting life easier and stop leaving money on the table. Visit edgeboost.bet to sign up. And if you use promo code BBOC and deposit $25, you'll receive a $25 deposit match. You can put that on UCSD to make the Final Four. Plus, Tier 2 status for faster bank deposits and more cash back. That's edgeboost.bet, promo code BBOC. Literally no fees. They make their money on volume and no minimum requirements. And just no gimmicks. It's just a great product that if you're a bettor, you should be using. All right, let's get to, so shout out EdgeBoost. Let's get to some weekday looks. I already mentioned Penn State. I might get there myself. Assume they'll be a 1-point favorite. Recording this before lines are out. My favorite one, I don't love the cards on Wednesday or Thursday. I definitely will be on Cincinnati against West Virginia. I'm a believer in this Cincinnati turnaround. My rant would have been if Cincinnati didn't cover against Iowa State, it would have been one of the most criminal non-covers I've ever. They got absolutely jobbed in that game from an official standpoint. This is a team that doesn't foul. I mean, I think they're top 10 in the nation in fouls per game. Dylan Mitchell fouled out on some questionable calls. He's really important for their defense. Jizzle James fouled out on a ridiculous call. And, Iowa State shot 30 free throws. Cincinnati shot 11. It was just a criminal, and they covered. There was also, 3 technicals called. They blew a call. He got hit in the face, blew the call, and then teed up Miller. It was ridiculous. But Cincinnati was right there in that game. I think they got a better whistle. They could have easily won in Ames. They've definitely turned around their offense, and it starts with Jizzle James, who's on fire right now. The rest of their offense, they switched up their rotation. You got Day Thomas starting, but James is just playing with a ton of confidence. And it really started after that West Virginia game. I'm sure he's had this one circled. They lost 63-50. James had one of the worst games you ever see. He was 0 for 7, finished with 0 points.
Which is
3
weird.
turnovers.
This should be a pretty good matchup for him against the West Virginia drop. Definitely better than the Iowa State structure.
I agree. He was just in this this little mini slump, confidence-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But he's found it of late. He's gone for 24, 25, 25 the last 3 games. But they even have some of their other players are playing better as well. Josh Reed is starting to play better. He's playing more confident. And the offense just needed some confidence. And this West Virginia team, I think they're just starting to finally feel the effects of not having DeVries, especially on offense. They're 3-7 over their past 10 games. The offense has been ugly. Over the past month, Cincinnati has been the better team. They're going to be the more desperate team here. Little revenge. This will be a lower scoring game, points at a premium. I think you get a max effort here from Cincy. I'm a believer in the offensive turnaround. The defense is already there. And their defense over the past month has also been getting unlucky. Teams are shooting 39% from 3 against them. So, I think Cincinnati wins this game in Morgantown. So I'll be looking at the Bearcats. What do you got?
Like that too. Yeah. Wednesday was a weird card for me as well. I was looking at East Tennessee State, maybe catching points at home against UNC Greensboro. I was looking at Miami +10 against Florida State, kind of like that. But I settled on my favorite one is going to be Illinois State, hopefully +1, hosting Bradley. Any dog price, really. I think it's going to be a good letdown spot for the Braves after that massive win over Drake on Sunday. Gutted out a 2-point physical road win by shooting 41% from 3. And something to watch. Duke Dean, their point guard, one of the best players in the Valley, fell pretty hard on his wrist. Checked in 2 minutes later, looked fine. He had it wrapped up, but it's something I'm going to monitor there. Same in a similar vein, good bounce back spot for Illinois State here after 3 straight losses. There are 5 Missouri Valley teams right now with a 7-9 conference record. So we're talking about a potential difference between like a 6 seed and a 10 seed in St. Louis. I think it's going to be pretty important for the Redbirds to pick up wins down the stretch. Bradley won the first head-to-head matchup between these two at home by 4, but shot quality graded it as a 9-point expected win for Illinois State because they hoisted up 34 triples and they only made 10 of them. That's under 30%. And this is a super duper legit 4-round 1 motion offense. Chase Walker is an elite post bucket getter and a very willing passer that you can work through as a hub. And the Redbirds just surround him with like 4 lights out shooters. They work inside out as well as anyone. They're elite at catch and shoot creation. Their spacing and shot making is elite. And Bradley is a very lengthy squad that is pretty good at their closeouts, but they overload on ball screen creation. And so that's super vulnerable to the type of sort of inside out paint to perimeter touching that Illinois State creates. And so basically I don't expect the Redbirds to shoot under 30%, make just 10 of 34 triples at home in the rematch. They are the league's...
Yeah, you're going to get threes against Bradley. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Can shoot. The problem is the Illinois State's defense, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So, yeah, you're right. I don't trust their defense one bit, and I don't like this matchup for them at all. I think they're lifeless in ball screens. They pack it in relentlessly with no defense, but they're the league's most efficient home offense. They're shooting a legit 40% from 3 at home on high volume, also shooting over 62% inside the arc. I just think that, Illinois State goes ballistic and scores at will in a fantastic situational spot at home and guts out this win over Bradley.
No, I agree with you. I had it circled as well. But their defense definitely is
a problem,
questionable, to say the least. And people are still saying like they want Drake in the tournament. I love the Drake story. But I don't think that they're getting a net large now. They have to win the Valley. Just
so would you prefer Bradley out of the Valley?
No, I'm saying as an at large if they don't win the Valley. Yeah, people are saying that
it'll be tough now.
I saw a lot of people saying that they hope that loss doesn't cost Drake a spot. I don't think they have a chance now.
That Kansas State win is looking better and better, though.
But now Kansas State has kind of faded a bit.
Yeah, back to where it helps, sure.
The past, yeah, I would say. Let's see what does Torvik have on his tourney cast. Yeah, he's at like 4%, not large. I was going to say like 10%. So, yeah, Drake, incredible story, incredible offense. And they would be a team that they get in, you could look at as a dog in a game. They're going to grind the game down, grind every possession, find the best shot. But I just think they need to win the Valley to get in now. But I agree with you on that spot. You got anything for Thursday?
Yeah,
any A East?
No A East for me this week. I got to look into the matchups a little bit more. I got to look at that Vermont Bryant one. That'll be a huge, huge game. Thursday, I'm going to go back to the Big West, our favorite league, and look at UC Davis -3 hosting Bakersfield. I like the spot for the Aggies. Good bounce back spot coming home after getting their doors blown off by the elite UC San Diego's Titans. And Davis has been quietly a very good home team. Now 6-1 at home in Big West play. Meanwhile, Bakersfield 1-6 on the road in Big West play. -13 net rating. They rank 340th nationally in Haslametrics away from home metric. Their big problem in this matchup for me is twofold. They're a ball screen centric offense running into UC Davis's elite ball screen coverage, and they turn the ball over 23% of the time on the road in conference play, which won't be good against a Davis team that really feeds off turnovers on defense. And conversely, Bakersfield blows in ball screen coverage. They're one of the worst in the conference. I think they're bottom 10 percentile nationally, which should allow one of my favorite mid-major point guards, T.Y. Johnson, to eat here. He scored 26 in the first head-to-head matchup, which more on that first head-to-head matchup. Bakersfield won by 11 at home, which isn't surprising to me given they've been the best the league's best offense at home. But as expected, the Aggies were actually more efficient in ball screen creation, which is huge considering how pick and roll reliant these two offenses are. And, Bakersfield shot just 36% from inside the arc. They're a super mid-range reliant offense. I just don't trust how they run their stuff. And, the Aggies, on the other hand, they shot 4 for 21 from 3, 19%. They're not a great shooting team, but they're better than that. They generated 11 unguarded catch and shoot opportunities in that game and hit one of them. I could see results flipping with home court. Obviously, the big key here for me, offensive rebounds. The Roadrunners are a top 25 offensive rebounding squad, while the Aggies struggle to clean the glass. Bakersfield grabbed 19 in the first matchup, scored 15 second chance points, and that is easy to travel on the road. Davis needs to fight better on the boards, better in the rematch, but if they do that, I think everything else here points towards a convincing Aggies home victory.
Don't mind it. By the way, one last thing before we out here. Did you? I don't know if you mentioned it. Maybe it was just on the notes. The Riverhawks, are they the corpse?
Yeah. So I am legitimately wondering if they're like point shaving at this point. I mean,
talk about UMass Lowell, by the way.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. They were my favorite. They were the favorite in the MES conference before the conference season began. They're now 4-7 after this past weekend's results, where they led Albany by 6 with 1 minute remaining in overtime and went and missed 3 front ends and turned it over twice in the final 60 seconds. They allowed an 8-0.
They lost to New Hampshire by 1.
They led New Hampshire by 15 with under 8 minutes. And Sammy Pieces went nuts and then hit a step back buzzer beating game winner. They allowed a 27-11 run over the final 7 minutes. I mean, they had a similar disaster against Maine earlier in overtime. The rumors coming out of there, Duquette's lost the locker room. Nobody likes each other. It's just a complete mess. The effort from that team is so shocking on rebounds, 50-50 balls, stuff like that, closing out games. It's been just a disaster season in Lowell, the worst I've seen for an MES team in a long time relative to expectations.
So they have been unlucky, but then I'm like, are they just the corpse now at this point? Or are they a team we potentially look like as a reset team in
the conference tournament
before the MES tournament? Like
I think so. I'm really
need to see some life down the stretch.
Yeah, so I thought they rebounded really well against New Hampshire in the first half of the game, but then they just let go. You know what I mean? It's like consistent 40-minute effort, like mental headspace. But yeah, I mean, they have all the offensive firepower to roast anyone in the league if they just focused for 10 seconds. And if Caleb Murphy,
their D stinks.
Their defense is awful. And once again, they can't rebound. But also if Caleb Murphy can get in there at point guard over Quincy Clark, they could be a team that could definitely be a buy low in the MES tournament. I don't know who else I would buy as a long shot.
Who do they miss so much?
Koulibaly.
Hakeem, was it?
There was Koulibaly and Ayinde Hakeem both left. Hakeem was
they missed from their defense because their defense was like good last year.
Koulibaly was big as the second frontline guy by Max Brooks, and then once he left because he got hurt and then didn't really come back, the interior defense did kind of fall off. But they still had really good on-ball pressure with Hakeem, who now is gone, and Quincy Clark is awful, and Somerville is a small frosh guard. So everything really just fell off for them in the most catastrophic of ways.
Yeah, I mean, M East is very
down.
Like, the way that they would, like, I think Bryan is the best team, but they could beat Bryan in a game that's like 86-85 or something, right?
Yep.
So, all right. You'll have your M East Minute on our Thursday episode. I'll be back with Mike if he's feeling better, and Greg on Thursday. We'll preview the weekend card, add a future to the portfolio. Tanner will talk some M East. Good luck with your plumbing and pipes. Everyone out there dealing with weather, stay safe. Thanks to Tanner for joining me. Hope you feel better, Mike. Thanks to our producer, David, on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Leave a 5-star review, really helps us out. Shout to EdgeBoost. Make sure you check that out as well. Home stretch. It's February 18th. March will be here before we know it. Let's get hot and have a big March. Good luck on all of your wagers. We'll see you Thursday night. Cheers.